After 20 years of silence, Yvette Fielding just did something that could destroy her career. The Most Haunted host has finally released footage that was banned from ever being shown on television. We're talking about investigations so disturbing that network executives locked them away and forbade the crew from ever speaking about what happened. Footage showing things that made seasoned paranormal investigators quit the show and refuse to ever return. Incidents so dark that even Yvette herself questioned whether they should continue filming. For 2 decades, fans have whispered about these lost episodes and suppressed scenes. Now, the truth is finally coming out, and it's far worse than anyone imagined. What did the cameras capture that was too terrifying for TV? Hit subscribe right now because what we're about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew about Most Haunted. When Most Haunted first aired in 2002 on Living TV in the UK, it revolutionized paranormal television. Before Most Haunted, ghost hunting shows were rare, low budget, and mostly forgettable. Yvette Fielding, a former children's TV presenter, created something completely different. A show that combined legitimate historical research, cutting-edge investigation technology, and raw, unfiltered reactions to allegedly supernatural phenomena. The format was deceptively simple. Yvette and her crew would lock themselves inside Britain's most haunted locations: ancient castles, abandoned asylums, plague pits, execution sites, and locations with documented histories of violent death and tragedy. They'd investigate overnight using night vision cameras, thermal imaging, EMF detectors, and other equipment designed to detect paranormal activity. The team included psychic medium Derek Acora, parapsychologist Dr. Ciaran O'Keefe, and a rotating crew of investigators and cameramen. What made Most Haunted different was the visceral, immediate nature of the investigations. Cameras captured Yvette screaming and running from unseen forces, objects flying across rooms, doors slamming with no explanation, and Derek Acora being violently possessed by malevolent spirits. Whether you believed it was real or staged, the show was utterly compelling television. Most Haunted became a massive hit, running for over 300 episodes across multiple series. It spawned countless imitators. Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, Paranormal Lockdown, and dozens of others all followed the template Most Haunted created. The show made Yvette Fielding a household name and turned Derek Acora into one of Britain's most famous psychic mediums. But behind the scenes, something darker was happening. The crew was investigating locations with genuinely horrific histories, sites where hundreds died in agony, where torture and execution were commonplace, where mental patients were abused for decades. They were spending night after night in these places, deliberately provoking whatever entities might reside there, and some episodes went so wrong that the network refused to air them. Former crew members have hinted over the years that certain investigations crossed lines that shouldn't have been crossed. There were incidents where people were physically injured, psychologically traumatized, or experienced phenomena so disturbing that they refused to discuss it publicly. Episodes that were filmed, edited, and then locked away because broadcasting them would be irresponsible or potentially dangerous. The whispers persisted for years. Fans on forums compiled lists of lost episodes that appeared in production schedules but never aired. Crew members would occasionally slip and mention investigations that went too far or locations they'd never go back to. But Yvette and the production company maintained strict silence. Non-disclosure agreements, legal threats, and professional pressure kept the banned footage hidden. Until now. In recent interviews and social media posts, Yvette has begun revealing what really happened during those suppressed investigations. Some of the banned footage has leaked online. Former crew members are finally speaking out now that enough time has passed, and the reality is far more disturbing than the rumors suggested. Derek Acora was the spiritual heart of Most Haunted for years. The Liverpool-born medium claimed to communicate with the dead, channeling spirits and allowing them to temporarily possess his body during investigations. His dramatic possessions, where his voice would change, his face would contort, and he'd speak as historical figures or malevolent entities, became the show's signature moments. But there was one investigation that nearly destroyed him completely. The crew traveled to Pendle Hill in Lancashire, a location infamous for the 1612 witch trials where 10 people were executed for witchcraft. The area has a dark, oppressive energy that locals have feared for centuries. According to local legend, the spirits of the executed witches still haunt the hill, and practicing occultists still perform rituals there. From the moment Derek arrived at the location, something was wrong. He became physically ill, vomiting before the investigation even began. He told Yvette he felt an overwhelming sense of evil, and warned that they shouldn't proceed. But the cameras were set up, The production schedule was locked in, and the network was expecting footage. Against Derek's protests, the investigation continued. What happened during that night was so extreme that most of the footage was immediately classified as unbroadcastable. Derek claimed to be possessed by the spirit of a witch who'd been tortured and executed, but this wasn't like his usual theatrical possessions. Former crew members described Derek becoming violent, attacking other investigators, speaking in voices and languages he shouldn't know, and exhibiting knowledge of historical details he couldn't possibly have accessed. The possession lasted for over an hour. During that time, Derek allegedly predicted specific personal tragedies that would befall crew members, predictions that later came true. He spoke about hidden rooms and burial sites at the location that were later verified by historical research. Most disturbingly, he revealed information about crimes and deaths that had never been publicly documented but were later confirmed through archive research. When Derek finally came out of the possession, he had no memory of what had happened, but watching the footage back, he was so disturbed by what he saw that he demanded it never be aired. He told Yvette that whatever had taken control of him during that investigation wasn't a normal spirit. It was something ancient, malevolent, and dangerous to interact with. The network agreed. The episode was shelved. The crew signed additional NDAs specifically about that investigation, and Derek himself changed after that night. According to people close to him, he became withdrawn, started having nightmares, and began questioning whether his gift was worth the psychological and spiritual cost. Some former crew members believed that investigation permanently damaged Derek in ways that contributed to his later health problems. The banned Pendle Hill footage has never been officially released, but brief clips have leaked online over the years, showing Derek in states of possession that look genuinely terrifying. Nothing like the controlled, performative possessions from regular episodes. In leaked audio, you can hear Yvette and crew members genuinely frightened, begging Derek to come back and discussing whether they should call for medical help. One of the most notorious banned investigations took place at a decommissioned psychiatric hospital in northern England. The facility had operated from the Victorian era through the 1990s, housing thousands of patients over its century-plus history. Like many institutions of its kind, it had a dark history of abuse, experimental treatments, lobotomies, electroshock therapy, and patient deaths that were never properly investigated. The building had been abandoned for years when Most Haunted received permission to investigate. Local urban explorers had long reported disturbing experiences there: shadowy figures, disembodied screams, the sounds of patients crying and moaning, and an overwhelming sense of despair that made people flee the building in terror. The Most Haunted crew arrived for what was supposed to be a standard overnight investigation. What they encountered instead was so psychologically traumatic that 3 crew members quit the show immediately afterward and refused to ever work in paranormal television again. According to leaked production notes and testimony from former crew members, the investigation went wrong almost immediately. Equipment malfunctioned in ways that couldn't be explained. Cameras would focus on empty corners and refuse to move. Audio equipment picked up voices and conversations that weren't happening, and batteries that were fully charged would drain completely in seconds. Then the physical phenomena began. Doors in locked wards would slam shut, trapping investigators in pitch-black rooms. Heavy furniture moved across floors with no explanation. Most disturbing were the sounds, screaming, crying, laughing, and banging that seemed to come from all directions simultaneously. The crew tried to rationalize it as sounds traveling through the old building's ventilation system, but the audio captured on multiple devices didn't match any natural explanation. The breaking point came when one crew member became violently ill and started exhibiting symptoms consistent with a severe psychological break. According to witnesses, he began screaming about patients touching him, insisted that doctors were performing surgery on him, and tried to attack other crew members to escape the hospital. He had to be physically restrained and removed from the building. Medical evaluation afterward showed no drugs in his system, no prior history of mental illness, and no physical explanation for his breakdown. But even after leaving the location, he continued experiencing flashbacks and intrusive thoughts about the hospital. He described vivid memories of being a patient there, memories that felt completely real despite him never having been institutionalized. Some of these memories included specific details about the hospital's layout and history that he had no way of knowing. The footage from that investigation was deemed too disturbing to broadcast. Network executives worried it could trigger psychological distress in viewers, especially anyone with personal or family history of mental illness. There were also legal concerns about showing someone experiencing what appeared to be a genuine mental health crisis on television, but fragments of the banned episode have leaked, and they're genuinely unsettling. You can hear the terror in Yvette's voice as she realizes something is seriously wrong. You can see crew members breaking protocol, abandoning camera positions, and fleeing the building. Most chilling are the EVP recordings, electronic voice phenomena captured during the investigation, which allegedly include voices saying investigators' names, describing how they'll die, and begging for help. During an investigation at an ancient execution site, Derek Acorah underwent a possession that went so far beyond his normal theatrical performances that the crew genuinely believed they might be witnessing something real and dangerous. The location was a medieval dungeon where prisoners were tortured before public execution, and the psychic atmosphere was reportedly overwhelming from the moment the team arrived. Derek claimed to be channeling the spirit of an executioner, a man who'd tortured and killed hundreds of people during his lifetime and took sadistic pleasure in his work. But this possession was different from anything the crew had seen before. Derek's physical appearance changed dramatically. His face contorted into expressions of pure malice. His voice dropped to an unnatural growl, and his body language became predatory and threatening. What made this incident cross the line was that Derek, while possessed, began describing in graphic, disturbing detail specific torture methods used at the location and how victims screamed and begged for death. He named specific prisoners who died there and revealed information about their final moments that was later verified through historical documents. Most disturbingly, he turned his attention to Yvette and other crew members, describing how he'd torture them if given the chance. The possession became physically dangerous when Derek lunged at Yvette with clear intent to harm her. It took multiple crew members to restrain him while he thrashed violently and screamed obscenities. The incident lasted nearly 30 minutes before Derek finally collapsed, completely exhausted and with no memory of what had occurred. When he watched the footage later, Derek was so disturbed by his own behavior that he suffered panic attacks and initially refused to continue with the show. The network banned the footage immediately, citing concerns about broadcasting what appeared to be genuine psychological disturbance, masquerading as entertainment. There's one location that Most Haunted investigated where the activity was so intense and the aftermath so disturbing that the crew was explicitly forbidden by both the production company and the location's owners from ever returning. The site was an ancient plague pit, a mass grave where hundreds of victims of the Black Death were buried in the 14th century. According to leaked crew testimony, the investigation at this location produced the most compelling evidence of genuine paranormal activity the show had ever captured. Multiple cameras recorded objects moving on their own, clear apparitions appearing and disappearing, and physical attacks on investigators that left visible marks and injuries. What made this investigation particularly dark was the psychological effect it had on everyone present. Every single person on the crew reported vivid nightmares for weeks afterward, and disturbingly, multiple people reported having the exact same nightmare on the same nights. These shared dreams involved being buried alive in the plague pit, feeling hundreds of diseased bodies pressed against them, and hearing voices begging for help. 2 crew members developed mysterious respiratory infections after the investigation that doctors couldn't diagnose or explain. Both experienced breathing difficulties consistent with pneumonic plague symptoms, though medical tests showed no actual infection. The symptoms vanished as suddenly as they'd appeared after about 2 weeks. Most disturbing was the footage itself. When editors reviewed the material, they discovered that multiple cameras had captured what appeared to be the same full-bodied apparition, a figure in medieval clothing who appeared in the background of shots watching the crew. In one sequence, this figure appears to walk directly toward the camera before vanishing. Enhancement of the footage showed facial features and clothing details that matched historical accounts of plague victims. The network's legal team determined that broadcasting this footage could open them to liability if viewers claimed psychological distress, and the location's owners revoked permission for the episode to air after learning how disturbed the crew had been. Dr. Kieran O'Keefe joined Most Haunted as the show's resident skeptic and parapsychologist. His role was to provide scientific context, debunk fraudulent claims, and offer rational explanations for phenomena the crew encountered. He was openly critical of Derek Acorah, at one point famously planting fake historical information to prove Derek was using cold reading rather than genuine psychic ability. But there was one investigation that shook Dr. O'Keefe's skepticism to its core and resulted in footage that couldn't be aired because it undermined the entire skeptical framework the show used to maintain credibility. The location was a 16th century manor house with a documented history of ritual murder, and occult practices. During this investigation, Dr. O'Keefe experienced phenomena that he couldn't rationalize away. He was physically pushed by an unseen force while cameras were rolling from multiple angles, capturing the incident from different perspectives and ruling out human intervention. He heard his own name whispered directly into his ear while standing alone in an empty room, with audio equipment confirming the sound wasn't environmental. Most significantly, he witnessed an object, a heavy iron candlestick, levitate and move across a table with no possible explanation. This occurred under controlled conditions with sealed rooms, night vision cameras from multiple angles, and no crew members within 20 feet. Frame-by-frame analysis confirmed the object moved on its own. In the banned footage, you can see Dr. O'Keefe's worldview crumbling in real time. His scientific rationalism couldn't account for what he was experiencing, and he became visibly distressed and disoriented. He's heard saying, "This shouldn't be possible, and I can't explain this," repeatedly. The episode was banned because Dr. O'Keefe's genuine crisis of belief undermined his role as the show's voice of reason. If the skeptic couldn't provide rational explanations, the show lost its credibility balance. The network worried viewers would either dismiss the entire show as fake or become too frightened by the implications. While most Haunted regularly featured investigators claiming to be pushed, scratched, or touched by spirits, there were several incidents where crew members sustained real, documented physical injuries that had no conventional explanation and were deemed too graphic or disturbing to broadcast. During an investigation at a castle with a history of torture and execution, Yvette Fielding was allegedly attacked by an unseen entity. Cameras captured her screaming and collapsing, then revealed 3 deep scratch marks that appeared on her back, wounds that seemed to materialize instantaneously under her clothing. Medical examination afterward confirmed the scratches were real injuries that broke the skin and required treatment, but couldn't explain how they appeared. A cameraman at a different location, a former workhouse where poverty-stricken people died by the hundreds, experienced something even more disturbing. While filming, he suddenly screamed and dropped his camera. When crew members reached him, they found burn marks on his arms in distinct handprint patterns, as if someone with burning hot hands had grabbed him. The marks were severe enough to require hospital treatment for second-degree burns. Most disturbing was an incident at a Civil War battlefield site where an investigator was allegedly pushed down a stone staircase by an unseen force. Multiple cameras captured the moment from different angles, showing him standing at the top of the stairs, then suddenly being propelled backward with significant force. He suffered a broken arm and concussion from the fall. Analysis of the footage showed no evidence of anyone pushing him, no trip hazards, and no rational explanation for why he fell backward with such force. In the audio, you can clearly hear him say, "Someone pushed me," immediately before the fall. Most eerily, thermal imaging cameras captured a human-shaped cold spot standing directly behind him at the moment he fell. These incidents forced production to implement new safety protocols and raised serious questions about the ethics of putting crew members in potentially dangerous situations for entertainment. While the official explanation for banning certain Most Haunted episodes always centered on content being too disturbing for broadcast or potentially harmful to viewers, leaked internal documents and testimony from former executives reveal the real reasons were far more complex and concerning. Network lawyers worried about liability if viewers claimed psychological trauma from watching particularly intense episodes. There was genuine concern that broadcasting footage of what appeared to be real paranormal phenomena, rather than obviously staged entertainment, could trigger panic, especially among vulnerable viewers dealing with mental health issues or spiritual beliefs. More significantly, there were concerns about inspiring dangerous imitation. Several banned episodes featured investigations at locations where occult rituals had been performed, or where the crew encountered what they believed to be genuinely malevolent entities. Broadcasting detailed footage of these investigations could potentially provide a blueprint for viewers to attempt their own dangerous paranormal experiments. Insurance companies that covered the production also applied pressure. After several crew members were injured during investigations, insurers threatened to cancel coverage unless certain episodes were shelved and future investigations included additional safety measures. The banned footage documented incidents that could potentially void insurance policies if made public. There were also darker whispers about regulatory pressure. According to former production staff, government broadcasting regulators had quiet conversations with network executives about certain investigations, particularly those involving locations with military or government connections. Some conspiracy theorists suggest certain episodes were suppressed because they revealed information about locations or historical events that powerful interests wanted to remain hidden. Perhaps most disturbing were reports that some crew members and executives who viewed the banned footage experienced lasting psychological effects, nightmares, paranoia, and in one case, a complete nervous breakdown. This created an internal culture where certain investigations became cursed in themselves, with people refusing to work on editing or archiving the footage. So why, after 20 years of silence, is Yvette Fielding finally releasing banned most haunted footage? The official story is that enough time has passed, the people involved have processed their experiences, and viewers deserve to know the full truth about what the show encountered. But there are other factors at play. Most Haunted's popularity has faded significantly since its peak in the mid-2000s. Releasing controversial banned footage generates publicity and renewed interest in the show's back catalog. It's smart business, creating buzz and potentially attracting a new generation of paranormal enthusiasts. There's also the reality that much of the banned footage has already leaked online through unofficial channels. Former crew members sharing clips, bootleg recordings from editing facilities, and footage that somehow escaped the locked archives. By officially releasing and contextualizing this material, Yvette can control the narrative rather than letting rumors and speculation dominate. More personally, Yvette has spoken about carrying the weight of these experiences for 2 decades. The psychological burden of witnessing things that challenged her understanding of reality, combined with being unable to discuss them publicly due to NDAs and network restrictions, took a genuine toll. Now in her 50s and with Most Haunted's original run long concluded, she has the freedom to finally speak her truth. Some former crew members support the releases, viewing it as validation of experiences they've been unable to share. Others remain opposed, arguing that some doors should stay closed and some footage should remain buried. Derek Akora, who passed away in 2020, never got the chance to tell his side of the story about the most disturbing investigations. What's clear is that the banned footage reveals a show that was far more intense and potentially dangerous than the broadcast episode suggested. Whether you believe the phenomena captured were genuine paranormal events or elaborate hoaxes, the psychological and physical toll on the people involved was very real.